stop, right now. Take one honest breath and listen, not to the noise around you, but to the single, small voice that narrates your life. That voice is the architect of everything you become. If you keep letting it whisper limits, you will wake up years from now wondering why the life you wanted is still someone else's reality. If you want real change, you must start where change actually happens, inside your head, in the shape and weight of your self-image. You've been taught to chase achievements, collect approval, and measure worth by external trophies. That model will wear thin. True power begins with what you think about yourself when no one's watching. Self-esteem is not vanity. It's a functional tool, like sharpening a blade before you go to work. When your self-image is sharp, decisions cut through hesitation. When it's dull, even easy moves feel heavy. Here's the brutal truth. Your life follows the belief you hold about who you are. Not your diplomas, not your followers, not your neat CV. Belief is the operating system. Napoleon Hill wrote about the power of belief as if it were a currency. Spend it deliberately. Don't confuse being realistic with being small. Realism that ruins you is cowardice dressed as caution. Realism that builds you is clarity aligned with courage. So, let's get practical. First, observe the voice. What does it say every morning? I can't. I'm not ready. People like me don't succeed. That voice learned those lines from somewhere. From parents, from failure, from a school that taught compliance. Good news, it can be rewritten. You are allowed to edit your script, line by line. Start with small tests. Confidence is not a feeling you wait for, it's a skill you practice. Pick one tiny action you've been avoiding. Call the person, send the email, speak up in a short meeting, and do it now. Not later, not next week. Do it after this breath. Each small win retells your story, and your internal narrator begins to notice. You need a pattern of tiny victories to rewire the brain. They stack like bricks. Now talk to yourself like you're coaching a friend. Notice how easily you'll tell a mate, you can handle this, while you tell yourself, you'll blow it. That double standard is sabotage. Flip it. Use the language you'd use for someone you respect. Replace, I'm not good enough, with, I'm learning, I'll get better. This isn't fluff, it's behavioral economics for your mind. Change the inputs, change the outputs. Here's a technique that works and doesn't feel mystical. Test your limiting beliefs. Write down the one thing you tell yourself most. Beside it, write evidence for and against. You'll be shocked how flimsy the against case often is. Most negative self-statements are opinions disguised as facts. Once you strip the opinion away, your choices widen. Visualize, but do it like an engineer, not an artist. Close your eyes and picture a concrete scene where you act the way you want to be. Not a dreamy montage, but a specific interaction. The exact words you say, the pace of your voice, what you do with your hands. Hold that image for 2 minutes. Now, reverse engineer it. What tiny behavior can you practice that maps to that image? Maybe it's a posture, a question you'll ask, or the first sentence you'll use. Practice that one behavior until it becomes automatic. Your self-image is a composite of stories you tell yourself and habits you perform. Change the stories, and the habits will follow. Change the habits, and the stories will gain new evidence. This loop is powerful because it's self-reinforcing. That's why people who practice daily discipline eventually become the kind of person discipline loves. Discipline is not punishment, it's a declaration of who you are becoming. Let's talk about the inner critic, the voice that points out every flaw, magnifies your mistakes, and demands perfection. Treat it like feedback, not fate. When the critic speaks, don't argue. Ask, what is this trying to protect me from? Often it's fear dressed in helpfulness. Then ask, is this protection useful right now? Frequently, it is not. Acknowledge the fear, thank it for trying, and move on. This subtle ritual disarms the critic and reclaims your authority. Confidence isn't about never feeling fear. It's about acting despite it. Courage is a pattern of repeated actions, not a heroic event. Earl Nightingale said that we become what we think about. Don't misinterpret that as a magic elevator to success. Think of it as a steering wheel. Where you steer your thoughts, you steer your life. If you steer them towards competence, curiosity, and contribution, your behavior will follow. Now let's anchor this inside your day. Build a short morning ritual that tells your brain who you are. It can be as simple as 3 statements spoken aloud, followed by one concrete action. The statements should be present tense and specific. I am a person who completes my priorities. I bring clarity to tough situations. I learn faster than I expect. Then act on one small, meaningful task for 12 minutes. That tiny ritual creates identity through repetition. Words plus action equals belief. Don't underestimate the role of environment. Your self-image will strain against surroundings that contradict it. If your friends mock your goals, your brain will default to safety. You must curate influence. That doesn't mean abandoning everyone, it means allocating energy. Seek one person whose presence amplifies your courage. Read something that sharpens your thinking. Replace a passive scroll session with 15 minutes of active reading or practice. Now, understand the difference between confidence and arrogance. Confidence opens doors, arrogance slams them. Confidence listens. It asks questions. It admits ignorance and then fills it with effort. Arrogance pretends to know. If you want to be resilient, practice humility wrapped in relentless action. Be teachable and stubborn about your habits. There will be setbacks. That's not the problem. The problem is staying down. Reframe failure as data. What did you learn? What's the next smallest experiment? Napoleon Hill emphasized persistent effort combined with clear desire. Desire without strategy becomes wishful thinking. Strategy without desire turns mechanical and sterile. Combine both. Want it deeply enough to do the boring work, and plan well enough to act consistently. A final practical. Craft your I am statement. One crisp sentence that describes the person you are becoming. Keep it short. Make it action-oriented. Not, I want to be successful, but I am the kind of person who finishes what I start and learns faster than I fear. Say it every morning. Say it in the mirror before a challenging call. Repeat it until your muscles, your posture, even the pitch of your voice begins to match it. You are not a passive passenger in your life. You are the editor of the script. Start editing with intention, with small daily rehearsals, with the courage to act when the critic snarls. Begin with one tiny test of confidence right now. Stand taller. Speak one sentence that matters. Make a small decision that aligns with who you are becoming. These micro-actions compound. If you do this, you won't merely chase success, you will become the person success naturally recognizes. That is the heart of self-esteem. A clear, functional image of yourself that directs your choices and commands respect. First from you, then from others. Keep this energy. You're only getting started. After this part, we'll dig into how your inner dialogue writes the script of your day and how to hack it so the script serves you. For now, move. Do that small thing you've been postponing. Reclaim 1 minute of authority over your life. Part 2. Listen. The conversation inside your head is not incidental. It's not background noise. It's the scriptwriter, director, and sometimes the saboteur of your life. If you want a different outcome, you must change the script. Not by wishing, not by pep talks alone, but by deliberately engineering the sentences you live by and the questions you habitually ask yourself. Start by noticing the patterns. For one full day, act like a journalist monitoring an interview. Record the recurring phrases your inner voice uses. Do you hear, "I'm not ready, I'll fail, who am I to?" Or do you hear, "I can figure this out, I'll learn, I'll try"? Awareness is the first tool, not to shame yourself, but to gather evidence. This data is gold because it reveals the stories that have been running on autopilot. Now understand this. Words shape attention. When you tell yourself, "I always mess up," your brain searches for proof of that claim and finds it. When you say, "I learn from mistakes," your brain focuses on data that supports improvement. This isn't mystical, it's cognitive filtering. Change the sentence and you change what your mind looks for. That's how belief systems shift. Let's be tactical. Take one core limiting belief, the loudest, most stubborn one, and interrogate it like a skeptical lawyer. Ask, where did this belief originate? Is it based on a single event or on a set of stories repeated by others? What evidence supports it and what evidence contradicts it? Most likely, you'll discover that the supporting evidence is either outdated or a misinterpretation. When you strip away stories, what remains is often a neutral fact plus interpretation, and interpretation can be rewritten. Rewrite deliberately. Don't fall for cheerleader slogans that float without substance. Create statements that are specific, present tense, and actionable. Instead of, "I am confident," try, "I prepare, show up, and learn from feedback." Instead of, "I'm worthless," try, "I contribute value when I take consistent, focused action." Put these statements where you'll encounter them multiple times a day. A short card on your desk, a note on your phone, or a line in a 5-minute practice you do before important tasks. Repetition matters because neural pathways strengthen with use. Language also sculpts identity through questions. People habitually ask either disempowering questions, like, "Why does this always happen to me?" or empowering ones, "What can I do next to get a different result?" Make it a rule. When you catch an unhelpful question, reframe it into a solution-oriented one. Train yourself to answer the empowering question immediately with one concrete next step. This turns rumination into experiments. Practice act as if intelligently. This is not fake confidence for show, it's rehearsal. If you want to be someone who speaks clearly in meetings, rehearse the opening sentence, the posture, the pacing, and the first question you'll ask. Rehearse it aloud until your body remembers. When you show up, the memory supports your behavior. Earl Nightingale's idea that we become what we think about works through rehearsal. Your repeated mental and physical practice reorients your automatic responses. Another tool that transforms inner dialogue is the evidence journal. For 7 days, write 3 short entries each evening, one success, one lesson, and one observable strength you used. Make the success small and tangible. The lesson must be specific: what failed, why, and how you'll change. The strength should be phrased as a behavior you performed, not a vague trait. After a week, read the entries back. Your inner script will start to notice the pattern of competence, not because you lied to it, but because you provided fresh, verifiable facts. Beware of absolutes in your language. Always, never, every time. These words harden your voice and close off options. Replace them with qualifiers like often, so far, or under these circumstances. That softens the narrative and opens a doorway for change. For example, "I often get overwhelmed in big projects," invites design. How can you break projects into manageable sprints? "I never finish anything" is a chokehold. It offers no path forward. Let's talk about the tone of your self-talk. If your inner voice is sarcastic or cutting, it's trying to keep you small by using shame as a brake. Treat that voice like an irritating but frightened advisor. Name it if that helps, the critic, the coach without compassion. When it speaks, listen and then respond with a counterpoint that's rational and firm. For example, if it says, "You can't do this," reply, "You haven't done this yet, but I've done similar things and learned. I will approach this as an experiment." You're not lying, you're balancing the narrative with truth and strategy. Social language matters too. How you speak about yourself to others becomes part of your inner script. Stop underselling. If someone asks, "What do you do?" and your reflex is to minimize, practice a concise statement that highlights an outcome you deliver, not arrogant, clear. When friends or colleagues hear that, their feedback will align with a more capable image of you, and your inner voice will integrate that social evidence. Now let's add a quick daily micro routine that rewires the dialogue. It takes 5 minutes and you can do it before any significant activity. Take one deep breath and name the one self-narrative that's most active. State one specific present tense corrective sentence out loud. Visualize a 5-second clip of you performing the desired behavior exactly as you want it. Commit to one tiny first step you will take within the next hour. This ritual is short but powerful because it stitches language, imagery, and action together. That's the triple engine of identity change. There's also a social experiment you can run. Declare a modest competence to a trusted person and ask for feedback after a week. For example, tell a colleague, "I'm experimenting with clearer meetings. Please tell me one thing I did well and one thing I can improve." This creates external feedback loops that force your inner critic to update its model. Dale Carnegie talked about the power of social proof and how small external cues change behavior. Apply it intentionally. Don't confuse kindness with softness. Rewriting your inner dialogue requires honesty and discipline. When you fail a promise to yourself, analyze quickly. What happened? What concrete correction will you make? And what will you do next? Don't moralize. Moralizing keeps you stuck in identity loops like, "I'm a failure." Data-driven correction moves you forward. As you practice, recognize the difference between critique and instruction. Productive self-talk instructs. "I'll analyze what didn't work and adjust." Destructive self-talk condemns. "I'm stupid." You need to train your inner coach to be precise, not punitive. Precision fuels improvement. Finally, sequence your changes. Don't try to overwrite every line of your script at once. Prioritize one core narrative that once changed will ripple across other areas. It might be, "I am capable of learning quickly," or "I follow through on commitments." Make that your primary rewrite for 30 days. Everything else becomes secondary evidence in service of that first change. Change your questions, change your language, change the evidence you collect. The inner dialogue will follow the signals you give it. You are not stuck with the voice you inherited. You can edit it, rehearse it, and prove it to it that a new story is truer. After this work, the next step is taking the improved inner script into real-life tests. Career moves, conversations, risks with safety nets. In the next part, we'll put your revised self-image into action. How low self-esteem shows up in career and relationships, and the exact daily practices that turn belief into measurable results. For now, do one thing. Identify the loudest sentence your inner voice repeats and rewrite it into one concrete, present tense, actionable statement. Say it out loud right now, then act on the smallest behavior that proves that sentence true. Part 3. Look, low self-esteem doesn't live in a vacuum. It shows up as tiny, persistent leaks, missed opportunities, silences in meetings, grudging compromises in relationships, sidestepping arrays, shrinking in photographs. If you want different outcomes in your career, your money, and your relationships, you must treat self-esteem like an operational asset. You don't wait for it to feel better. You design systems that produce evidence of competence and worth. First, identify where your self-image costs you the most. Is it at work when you negotiate? In relationships when you set boundaries? During interviews when you describe your value? Pick the domain where a 10% improvement would change outcomes materially. More income, more respect, more influence. That will be your leverage point. Change there, and the rest follows. Now, use micro-commitments. A micro-commitment is a tiny, low-risk action that nudges identity. If you avoid asking for raises, your first micro-commitment is, tomorrow morning, write a single bullet that quantifies one outcome you produced in the last 90 days. The second micro-commitment? Send a one-sentence update to your manager listing that outcome and asking for a 15-minute check-in. Small moves compound into credibility. Napoleon Hill taught that desire married to persistence becomes a force. Persistence here is daily, tiny, measurable actions. Confidence is visible long before it's complete. Your posture, voice, and pacing communicate belief in you. Practice power posture for 2 minutes before important interactions. Shoulders back, chest steady, chin up. Speak the opening sentence you practiced. Pause. Ask one clear question. People will respond to the person who looks and speaks like they belong there. This is not acting, it's rehearsal that becomes real. The body sends signals to the brain, and the brain returns more confident behavior. It's a feedback loop you can use. Let's talk negotiation, an arena where low self-worth bleeds value. Before you enter, prepare 3 items: a bullet list of your outcomes, a non-negotiable minimum, and a 2-line opening that frames value. In the last quarter, I delivered X, which increased Y. I'm looking to align my compensation with that impact. Practice the opening until it sounds normal. Most people fail not from lack of skill, but from not practicing the vulnerable moment. Practice makes the vulnerable moment mechanical. In relationships, low self-esteem often shows as over-accommodation or silence when you need to speak up. Start by setting one small boundary this week. It can be as simple as, I'll be home by 10. Let's plan the call for next week. It's a tiny test of your ability to protect your time and preferences. Boundary work is identity work. You are teaching others who you are by what you allow. Each boundary kept is a deposit in your self-respect account. Actionable routines accelerate credibility. Use a 12-minute mastery block each day on the one skill that most directly improves the domain you chose. If it's public speaking, rehearse openings and one story for 12 focused minutes. If it's finance, track and optimize one line of your budget for 12 minutes. The goal is not virtuosity. It's consistent improvement that produces observable results. Results rewrite your internal script faster than pep talks. Grow your visible competence with accountability. Tell one trusted person what you will do and when. Ask them to check in. Social accountability forces you to act and provides external evidence to contradict the inner critic. Dale Carnegie emphasized the social dimension of influence. When you align your identity with external expectations, you get external feedback that accelerates belief. Don't ignore the small victories. Build a daily wins list. 3 items each evening that you did well. They don't need to be dramatic. Showing up on time, asking a question, stopping a negative thought. These are real wins. After 2 weeks, you'll have a stack of proof. When anxiety or shame resurfaces, read that list. The inner critic relies on amnesia. Your job is to create a record that counters it. Use behavior sequencing to create unmistakable evidence of competence. Sequence is simple: prep, perform, record. For example, before a presentation, Prepare by rehearsing 1 minute of your speech, perform the talk, then record a one-sentence note about what went well and what to adjust. This turns vague impressions into data. Data beats drama every time. Work on framing your identity for others. How you describe yourself in public becomes a mirror your social circle uses to update their model of you. Replace weak phrases like "I kinda" or "I try to" with stronger, clear statements like "I lead projects that improve X" or "I help teams reduce Y." You're not bragging, you're clarifying. Clear language yields clearer opportunities. Cultivate what I call quiet authority. Quiet authority is not loudness or bravado. It's consistency, preparedness, and calm. It's doing the work and showing up composed. People defer to calm competence, and calm competence grows on routine. Train calm by practicing under small pressure, a short talk to a small group, a targeted ask in a meeting. Pressure practiced in tiny doses expands your comfort zone. Resilience grows out of adaptive explanation. When things fail, the explanation you choose matters. Don't frame failures as identity facts, like "I'm incompetent." Frame them as variables, like "I missed this metric because I misunderstood the timeline. I will ask clarifying questions next time." This subtle shift moves your mind from character judgments to problem solving. Earl Nightingale's idea, "We become what we think about," demands that you think about solutions, not permanent defects. Now, charisma is partly learned. It's the intersection of authenticity, presence, and interest in others. Practice active listening. When someone speaks, be fully present. Mirror small elements of their language and summarize their point before you add yours. People feel seen, and that makes you magnetic. Confidence plus curiosity equals influence. Use it. Take deliberate social risks. If you avoid visibility, visibility will avoid you. Start by sharing a small idea in a meeting, then follow up with one helpful resource. Visibility is a habit. The first time takes courage, the second time becomes easier. Design visibility experiments with safety nets. Share a 30-second insight, not your life story. Improve your language around setbacks. Replace "I failed" with "That attempt did not produce the result I wanted. Here is the next test." Psychological distance helps, and externalized description treats the event as data. That's how effective people think. Experiments, not verdicts. Now, structure your day so that the high-value, identity-building work happens when you have the most energy. Energy management is underrated. If you do your most important identity-defining tasks at your peak state, you generate better outcomes, and better outcomes feed your self-image. Learn your rhythms and schedule accordingly. Finally, create a ritual for public accountability. Once a week, state one measurable objective publicly, a metric you'll move, and report progress. Make it small and tangible, like, "This week I will contact 3 prospective clients," or "This week I will rehearse my presentation twice." Public commitments trigger social pressure and give you an external scoreboard. Remember, actions create identity. You won't feel like the person you want to be at first. That's normal. Feelings follow behavior. Do the work, build the routines, collect the evidence. Napoleon Hill, Dale Carnegie, Earl Nightingale, they all pointed to the same practical truth. Consistent, directed action reshapes your life more reliably than vague hope. Right now, pick one domain: career, relationship, or money. Choose one micro-commitment you will do in the next 60 minutes. State it out loud. Practice the opening sentence you'll use. Take that tiny step. That single deliberate action begins to shift the trajectory. You are designing a life that demands you show up differently. Make the first change by doing something small and concrete, and then repeat. Actions compound, evidence accumulates, and your self-image will catch up to the person you're becoming. After this part, we will focus on resilience, keeping high self-worth under pressure, building habits that sustain the new identity, and how to defend your inner authority when the world pushes back. Part 4. Resilience is not a personality trait reserved for a lucky few. It's a set of habits you build deliberately so you don't fold when pressure arrives. If you want your self-worth to last under fire, you need systems that protect the new identity you're creating. Systems that convert stress into information, not indictment. Systems that convert hits into calibration instead of collapse. Start with a simple truth. Stress reveals, it does not create. When you crack under pressure, what breaks is usually a gap between your belief about who you are and the evidence your behavior provides in that moment. Fix the gap. Build rituals and routines that produce steady evidence even when the stakes rise. That's how you keep self-worth from being a mood and make it an operating condition. 3 pillars will carry you through pressure: preparation, presence, and recovery. Master these, and you'll stop confusing anxiety for incapacity. Preparation. Prepare like a professional, so uncertainty has less power. That doesn't mean you must plan every outcome. It means you prepare the essentials that matter. For a tough conversation, list the outcomes you want, rehearse the opening, and prepare 2 fallback options. For a high-stakes presentation, know your first 60 seconds by heart and the single story that proves your point. Preparation reduces the surprise factor and gives your nervous system a job to do. Napoleon Hill spoke about definiteness of purpose. Clarity before action halves the chance that panic wins. Presence. Pressure shrinks perspective. Use micro practices to come back to the present moment. Breath control is the fastest lever. Use a simple 4-4-8 pattern. Inhale for 4 counts, hold 4, exhale for 8. 2 rounds in your physiology begins to calm. Anchor yourself to a tiny physical cue, a specific breath, the feel of your feet on the floor, the pressure of your thumb against your index finger. When anxiety rises, return to the cue. Presence is the only place where effective action can be taken. You can't negotiate, create, or lead from frantic. Recovery. Treat mistakes as experiments, not indictments. After any setback, run a short after-action review. What happened? What did I control? What did I misjudge? What will I change for the next attempt? Keep answers specific and future-focused. If you skip blame and go straight to data, you'll preserve dignity and gain traction. Earl Nightingale taught that persistent, thoughtful action beats ad hoc heroics. Use recovery as fuel for improvement. Now let's harden your defenses against external attacks, criticism, envy, or dismissal. The first defense is a clear identity statement. When your self-image is crisp, I'm the kind of person who learns quickly and finishes what I start, outside noise loses its edge. Critics then become signals to test, not verdicts to internalize. Second, curate feedback sources. Your inbox, comment threads, and casual acquaintances are not reliable barometers. Choose 2 people whose judgment you trust for honest, constructive critiques, and send them 1 thing per month for feedback. That limited, high-quality input will outperform endless low-grade noise. Imposter feelings will visit. Expect them. The trick isn't to banish them, it's to give them less command. When imposter thoughts appear, treat them like a weather report. Acknowledge, note the forecast, and act in spite of it. Use an evidence check in those moments. Name 3 concrete results you produced in the past 90 days. This short ritual grounds you in reality and disrupts the false narrative of "I don't belong." Build keystone habits that sustain self-worth. Keystone habits are small routines that cascade into broader change. Examples: a morning ritual of movement plus 3 priority actions, an evening wins review, a weekly planning hour with a visible metric. Choose one keystone and commit to it for 30 days. Habit formation is boring by design. That's the point. Boring builds foundations. Dale Carnegie talked about small, consistent inputs changing outcomes. Apply that to habits. Stack habits to make them resilient. Habit stacking links a new behavior to an existing one. After you brush your teeth, state your short I am sentence 3 times. After your morning coffee, list the single most important task for the day. These tiny links reduce friction and make the new identity automatic. The brain loves sequences. Give it predictable steps, and it will execute them even when willpower thins. Energy management is non-negotiable. Self-worth is fragile when you are depleted. Sleep, movement, and nutrition are not optional. They are baseline armor. No mental strategy will work consistently if you're running on stress, sugar, and half sleep. Schedule non-negotiable blocks for rest and physical activity. Even 10 minutes of brisk movement resets your nervous system and sharpens confidence. Think of energy as a budget. Don't overspend on trivial things and underinvest in what compounds. Set boundaries aggressively but kindly. People will test limits because the world likes the old version of you, the person who always says yes. Say no more often, and when you do, give a short, clear reason. No apology required. Boundaries are how you protect the practice of becoming. Each no that aligns with your priorities increases your internal credit score. Practice tactical humility. That sounds like a contradiction, but it's not. Humility says, I don't have to prove everything now. I can learn. Tactical humility keeps you open to new information while preserving your authority. It shows up as curiosity in conversation and preparation in action, a strange mix that magnetic people use all the time. When stress becomes chronic, not acute, your system needs a reset. Use ritualized breaks, a day where you do not work on identity projects, a weekend of low cognitive demand, a week where goals are reviewed but not pushed. Recovery cycles are strategic. They protect momentum and prevent burnout. The goal is sustainable elevation, not unsustainable spikes. Create a ritual for public pressure moments. Before any big event, run a 5-minute pre-flight, 1 breathing cycle, your I am sentence twice, a 20-second visualization of the first exchange, and a micro task that grounds you. Open a document. Check the first slide. This pre-flight makes the opening mechanical and reduces the emotional cost of the opening. The opening often sets the tone. Control it. Defend against comparison. Comparison steals focus and energy. Replace comparison with curiosity. What can I learn from them? Or what concrete step can I take that moves my metric a little forward? Use your own scoreboard. Track progress against your past performance, not someone else's highlight reel. And finally, ritualize celebration. Too many people dismiss small wins as trivial. Rewards are an essential part of habit loops. Celebrate small, then scale. A 5-minute pause to acknowledge a win resets dopamine and reinforces the behavior. Add this to your evening wins list. Mark one thing as celebrated, however small. Resilience is an ongoing architecture, not a single act. It's built with intentional preparation, present action under pressure, consistent recovery, and the daily habits that make your identity non-negotiable. Keep iterating. When you fall, use the prescribed after-action steps. When you succeed, record the wins and let them harden your narrative. Right now, pick one pressure point you expect this week. Design a pre-flight for it using the 5 elements above. Practice it once. Use the breathe pattern, say your I am sentence twice, a 20-second visualization of the first exchange, and a micro task that grounds you. Open a document. Check the first slide. This pre-flight makes the opening mechanical and reduces the emotional cost of the opening. The opening often sets the tone.
control it. After this, we'll close by integrating everything: how to make this identity permanent across months and years, and how to push forward without losing balance. Gear up. The final part will tie the whole program together and give you a clear map to move forward.
Part 5. This is the place where everything you've learned either becomes a story you tell or a life you live. You've rehearsed new sentences, practiced tiny wins, built rituals, and hardened resilience. Now the work is to integrate those pieces so the identity you're creating becomes the default setting, the autopilot that steers your decisions, your relationships, and your future. Integration is not glamorous. It's patient, steady architecture. It's the daily practice of matching who you say you are with what you actually do. Start by treating your week like a laboratory. Design experiments that test your new identity in predictable ways. Each experiment has 3 parts: hypothesis, action, measurement. Hypothesis: if I ask for 15 minutes with my manager and present one measurable outcome, I will increase the chance of a raise discussion. Action: schedule and execute the meeting using the script you practiced. Measurement: note the result: yes, no, rescheduled, and the feedback you received. Over time, these experiments create a library of evidence that your identity claims are true. The library is what converts belief into habit. Identify 4 domains that represent who you are becoming: thinking, how you manage your inner narrative; action, what you do daily; relationships, how you show up with others; and legacy, the projects that outlast short-term wins. For each domain, pick one keystone habit and one micro-experiment for the month. Keep the habits tiny and the experiments visible. For thinking, it might be a nightly evidence journal. For action, a 12-minute mastery block. For relationships, one boundary practiced per week. For legacy, one measurable progress metric on a long-term project. Small, repeated choices in these domains compound into character. Now lock the habit sequence into place with ritual and environment. Ritual takes friction out of change. If you want your mind to default to clarity, create a morning sequence that cues the brain. Movement, 3 I am sentences, and 1 prioritized task for the day. If your environment pulls you away, change it. Remove distractions during your mastery block. Design the smallest possible friction for your new behaviors and the largest friction for the old ones you want to stop. The environment is silent alignment. It either supports who you want to be or it undermines you. You must guard your attention like a professional investor guards capital. Attention compounds. Where you put it, grows. Social media, gossip, and comparison steal attention and dilute identity. Decide what deserves your focus and schedule it with the same seriousness you give an appointment with a client or a loved one. Block time for deep work, for learning, and for rest. When you guard attention, you guard identity. Create an accountability architecture that scales with your ambition. A single check-in partner works for a start. As your goals grow, form a trio or small group that meets bi-weekly. Each member states one measurable outcome and reports progress. The accountability group is not for moralizing. It's a results engine. Dale Carnegie taught that social structures shape behavior. Use this truth. Make your promises public to 2 or 3 people whose judgment matters. Those promises will change the cost of inaction. Develop a visible scoreboard. Metrics don't have to be glamorous. They must be honest. Track the things that prove your new identity: number of meaningful conversations initiated, follow-ups completed, practice sessions done, money saved or earned, books completed, outlines written. Update the board weekly. Looking at accumulated evidence does 2 things. It corrects the liar in your head, and it gives your future self momentum. People who change the most are people who keep score. Remember the role of reflection. At the end of each week, run a 20-minute review. Ask, what worked, what didn't, and what specific change will I make next week? Be brutal with patterns, not with yourself. Replace moral judgments with tactical adjustments. This is how discipline becomes intelligent. You learn faster because you pay attention. Keep cultivating courage to be visible. The world rewards visible competence. If you hold back because you're waiting to feel ready, you'll always lag. Napoleon Hill wrote about definiteness of purpose. Clarity gives power to action. Decide what you stand for and put it in public in small, repeatable ways. Share a short insight. Publish a 2-paragraph idea. Ask a question in a meeting. Each act of visibility grows your sphere of influence and supplies the social proof your inner critic can't invent. Balance is not the absence of intensity. It's the intelligent distribution of energy. You will sprint and you will rest. Plan both. Build cycles of work and recovery into your calendar so progress is sustainable. When you treat rest as strategic, you perform better and stay longer in the growth game. Keep the long view. You are not trying to win one day. You are building a life. Keep practicing tactical humility. The stronger your identity becomes, the more opportunity you'll have to test it. Use humility as a tool. Stay curious, ask better questions, and assume you are wrong until you prove you're not. Humility paired with relentless action is magnetic. Learn from people who are better than you in specific skills and borrow their playbook. Earl Nightingale emphasized steady, daily improvement. Let that principle be your North Star. When negative tides come, criticism, silence, rejection, don't shelter. Use them. Negative feedback is free data if you treat it like data. Extract the specific actionable point and file it into your improvement plan. Resist the urge to generalize. Specific correction moves you faster than broad shame. Now scale habits into identity by stretching your timeline. Commit to a 90-day identity sprint. Pick one identity sentence, concise and actionable, and daily practice the associated behaviors. For example, I am the person who makes clear requests and follows through. Every day, do one clear request and one follow through. At the end of 90 days, the habit will be anchored. Use this time frame because it's short enough to sustain urgency and long enough to create lasting wiring. Surround yourself with signals that amplify growth. People who ask hard questions, resources that teach practical skills, and environments that remind you of who you want to become. Curate your inputs like you curate investments. If you are fed mediocrity, your output will match it. Finally, be relentless about one thing: consistency. Inspiration is temporary. Habits last. You don't need to be brilliant every day. You need to be consistent. Show up in small ways, record the wins, correct quickly, and repeat. That loop is the engine of transformation. Here's the last practical assignment. Write your concise identity sentence now, 2 lines max. Place it somewhere you'll see it when you wake. Design a 12-minute action that proves that sentence today. Tell one person you will do it and ask for a quick check-in. Then do it. That single deliberate cycle of declaration, action, and accountability creates momentum that compounds far beyond the moment. Remember those voices: Napoleon Hill's insistence on purpose, Dale Carnegie's mastery of human connection, Earl Nightingale's steady insistence on thought as the architect of experience. Use their distilled ideas as fuel, not crutches. This is your work. Daily, imperfect, forward-moving. Now, move. State your sentence, do the 12-minute action, tell one person, repeat this process, and watch the quiet architecture of your life transform into something unmistakable. If this pushed you, if you felt a spark or discomfort that turns into action, I want you with me on the next step. Subscribe and like. Keep building, and let's keep making progress together.